everyone, and welcome to the main event. I am your host, Troy, and with me, as always, is the mosh to my thrasher. What is up, Greg?
What up? Our first show, you go to that.
Well, I'm trying to stay topical, Greg. This is the first episode of Main Event Marks. We did a quick intro yesterday, kind of explaining who we are, what we're about, all that good stuff. That is in the archives for yesterday. Definitely go check that out. It's only a 15-minute quick, what's happening kind of thing, and it'll explain kind of what you should be in store for. Today we might make some obscure references. I'm not quite sure. We don't rehearse any of this, guys. We just kind of hit the mic and go. But we do have notes, so there's that. Greg and I are what I would consider walking wrestling encyclopedias, and I consider myself a walking wrestling encyclopedia with some of the pages torn out because stuff I've just either blocked out of my memory or stuff I've forgotten. And you usually remind me, it's like, yeah, don't you remember when blah, blah, blah? And it's like, oh my gosh. But
I tried not to, but thanks a lot, you jerk.
Yeah. Hey, I've done that to you a few times too, and you're like,
that's exactly word for word what I say to you.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna have a lot of fun with that, remembering some of the stuff that we may have forgotten. And we're going to cover all the news and notes from around this time in history before we actually dive into the show itself. Are you ready for these some of these news and notes, Greg?
As ready as I can be.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we have to start off the news. I guess we don't have to start it off this way, but I sorted it out this way. We're starting off on kind of a down note on the news because in June of 1998, the Junkyard dog died this month in a car accident driving home from his daughter's high school graduation. Do you remember that news dropping?
I do, yeah.
I was a little
kind of hit me a little hard because I was a huge fan of his when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, and it's sad that he was driving home from his daughter's high school graduation. Well, it gets worse because apparently dog arrived several hours late after the graduation had already ended, and his daughter had already left with friends, so he never even saw her before he died. That's kind of rough. She didn't, and his daughter didn't find out until the next morning that he had even attempted to come to the graduation, and she also learned of his death at the same exact time. Bad stuff. And I guess from what Jim Ross had said, his daughter was not like an easy person to track down. Because if you remember when he went into the Hall of Fame posthumously, they got his daughter to show up and accept the award for him. Do you remember what year that, or what WrestleMania that was that he went in?
That was WrestleMania 20, I believe. That's when they brought back the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he said they had the darnest time tracking her down. And when they finally did, they were like, okay, well, we want to get your personal information, whatever, because your dad has a lot of like royalty checks that we want to send to you, because right now we're just sitting on his money, and we, fair is fair. You deserve, what's coming to you from your dad's stuff. So that was pretty cool on WWE's part, later on. Another bad story. This is somewhat wrestling related, and you'll see why. I don't know if you would have been tuned into the news about this at this time or not. It's from your neck of the woods. An elementary school in California was defaced with racist graffiti and Nazi symbols. And amidst all the hateful graffiti, the vandals also spray painted 316 and NWO for life.
Thus giving away their age, by the way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they probably went to that school.
What grown man or woman, I guess I shouldn't assume, but what grown person is going to write that?
Yeah, it's like the most racist, hateful things you can possibly think of. By the way, wrestling references. Like, what?
Well, it was the Attitude Era. Things were a little bit murky, to put it lightly.
You know what's weird is in the Attitude Era, they didn't even have Nazis then. but they did back in the old days. Like that was a thing. People forget, they think, oh, Fritz von Erich, he was the father of the Von Erich boys, and beloved in Texas. He ran world-class championship wrestling. By the way, he started off as a Nazi character.
Yeah.
That's why his last name was Von Erich.
Thus, playing into every Texan stereotype ever.
Yeah, he made a lot of money as a fake Nazi. Okay, I'm not defending him, just saying.
Say Heil Hitler, it'll be so over, bro.
Bro, we got this idea, bro. ECW probably won't be back to Monaca, Pennsylvania, I believe is how you pronounce it, anytime soon. A local priest attended their last show.
Oh, good grief.
And then went on an anti-ECW crusade, writing letters to the local paper and throwing a fit to the venue's owners. So the building they were at has decided to no longer let ECW run shows there. Oh, I'm
okay.
sure they were torn up about not going back to Monaca.
I'm just saying, I don't think a priest show or going to an ECW show.
I mean, the only thing I can think of in his defense about it was, well, I keep hearing all this bad stuff. Maybe I should go see it for myself.
And what? Try to get the devil out of him?
Maybe he went to see if it really was as bad as people were telling him it was. I don't know.
Did they really crucify a man on TV? Yes, that's probably what.
Yeah. Well, this was 98. I guess they had done that.
I think it was in 96 when they did that. Yeah. So honestly, that's the first thing I thought about when you said priest going ECW.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about 96, because I remember they had Kurt Angle in the audience, and he had just won the gold medal with a broken freaking neck.
And they didn't have Kane come out and tombstone the priest, so already a fail. So,
good Lord. Now that the NBA playoffs are over, WCW is expected to announce Hogan and Dennis Rodman versus DDP and Karl Malone at the upcoming Bash at the Beach pay-per-view. This is around the same time that Rodman skipped out on practice to show up on Nitro. I believe you get references to that in The Last Dance, right?
You do. You even get some footage. Excuse me, some footage of it too.
Well, there you go.
That's Rodman just crazy. Like, I'm thinking about, like, I mean, like, nowadays, I'm like, if someone was to, like, do that nowadays, they'd probably be fined like $1 trillion. Maybe suspended a few games, because that's where we are now in sports. You get suspended for any little thing, or not punished enough for a big thing. One of the two. But
well, you think? I mean, that'd be like I'm going to make this reference because it's you. The Warriors are in the finals, and before game 4 of the finals, Draymond Green just shows up on Raw and says, "I'll practice some other time."
That's funny, because that would be the one.
Yeah, and he's setting up for a tag match, Playa, coming up at SummerSlam or something like that. Yeah, oh, grief. WCW
also, real quick, they would not allow that in today's NBA, like for an athlete to go do another sport that's like a physical sport like that. Nope. So we're in a completely different time too, like all around.
Well, yeah. Remember, I mean, this is obviously a different league. But when Pac-Man Jones was in TNA as a tag team champion, by the way, he was not allowed to get physical at all.
Yep.
His only quote unquote physical move was he took a stack of money and threw it at somebody like he was at a strip club.
Monopoly money at that too, by the way.
Good Lord. Yeah, he made it rain on some poor unsuspecting soul, and then Ron Killings, aka R-Truth, rolled them up for the pin. Man, foreshadowing for the 24/7 title, right?
Yeah, one of my favorite things in wrestling right now.
You and I are vastly different on that opinion. Ah, man. My thing is, I might like it more if there were less schoolboy roll-ups for the win. That's
kind of why I like it, because it's just so stupid and random. And
well, it's like, can't we see the occasional small package? And I'm not talking about Rob Gronkowski. Oh, I'm kidding. I kid, but seriously, don't kill me, Gronk. WCW has a. Actually, after that joke, he might high-five me. because he's on that level. WCW has a Nitro scheduled for the Georgia Dome next month, and they already broke the company all-time gate record with the first day ticket sales. 14,000 plus tickets were sold on the first day for over $540,000, which breaks the record set by Starrcade this past December.
And they didn't even have a main event set yet.
Yeah. Well, was this the I'm getting my timelines mixed up here, but was this the where Goldberg was beating Hogan?
Yeah.
Or the finger poke?
No, that is also in the Georgia Dome, but that's in January of the next year. So about 5 months away? 6 months?
Okay, so this was Goldberg versus Hogan main event?
Yeah.
Okay. The Charlotte Observer newspaper ran a story on the Ric Flair WCW issues. The current argument seems to be over whether Flair can be held to the letter of intent that he signed in 1997 when he agreed to stay with the company for 3 years. This was a big bone of contention. If people have listened to Eric Bischoff or Ric Flair talk about it, big stuff. And Bruce Pritchard even said that Flair was going to show up at some WWF pay-per-view with Reed, who had just won a wrestling, like an amateur wrestling.
I want to say that was fully loaded the next month.
It might have been, yeah, because he said Flair, they were going to show Rick and Reed front row, and the camera would pan over and say, well, we have a wrestling champion in the crowd named Flair, and then they would focus on Reed because he just won a wrestling tournament. And Flair,
God, that's the ultimate troll job.
Oh yeah. Well, and then they said they would interview Reed, and Rick would just be standing there like the proud father or whatever on camera, and just to piss off WCW. But they said Rick was literally in the arena parking lot doing circles in his car on the phone he was on one line with Bruce Pritchard and on the other line with his lawyer. And his lawyer said, yeah, probably shouldn't do that. So they scrapped it. But that would have been good TV, man. Or good pay-per-view, whatever. Speaking of WCW, they have filed a lawsuit against the WWF, and that is almost identical to the lawsuit the WWF filed against them in 1996. The suit alleges use of WCW trademarks, violating unfair trade practice laws, and other such stuff. All of these seem to stem from the DX skit, where they showed up at WCW events and aired the footage on TV. As a result of the lawsuit, WWF has stopped all references to WCW. I mean, by this point, WWF was kind of pulling away. So, the old saying, when you're number one, you never mention number two.
Yeah. But I think they were trading victories at the time of that, quote, invasion.
Yeah, they were. It was around this time when WWF was... They hadn't quite pulled away yet, but they were in the driver's seat. Something that wasn't in the driver's seat here. Latest plans on Ultimate Warrior is for him to debut in August or September in WCW. But again, that can all change depending on the ratings. If WCW keeps losing to the WWF, expect him to debut sooner. Yeah, they really... I don't know. They really thought too much of what the Warrior could do for their ratings, I think.
I mean, the night he debuted, I jumped a little bit, but
yeah, it was like seeing somebody cross like a race car cross the finish line, and you're like, yes, and then it bursts into flames and crashes into a wall, and you're like, what? And then you keep watching because you're like, what's going to happen? Is he dead? Like, that's the only thing I could think of, because it starts off, you're like, oh my gosh, the Warrior's here. He's going against the NWO, Hollywood Hogan. And then he keeps talking, and you're like, what am I watching? And then it just keeps getting exponentially worse from there. Like, you and I are going to have to cover the Warrior's time in WCW on this podcast. We just have to.
I do have a figure of that Warrior.
I have a Jax and a Mattel figure of the Warrior. Neither one are from WCW. I do have one of, when the real Warrior died and a fake one came back.
Yes, I have that one too.
Yeah. Look it up, people. It was a rumor, believe it or not. Scott Hall will probably be back in about a month since he's back in rehab. Is that really news in 1990?
Spoiler, he will return at that Georgia Dome show.
Yeah, to, quote, take Goldberg to school. And oddly enough, that was the worst of Goldberg's 2 matches that night. Horace Boulder, a.k.a. Hollywood Hogan's real-life nephew, Horace Hogan, recently signed with WCW. For some reason, I was thinking he was there before this. Apparently not. Speaking
might have
of
been a jobber.
I don't know.
Like one Saturday night or something.
I like how he was using Hulk Hogan's previous name, by the way, where he was Terry Boulder. So now he's Horace Boulder. Like, that's the family namesake.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, this is also the time when on Nitro, Mortis cut a promo saying that his new name is Canyon. And who better than Canyon?
Nobody except for Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I guess. The real Alliance.
Real tagline.
By the way.
Yep.
Good Lord. By the way, speaking of Canyon, just a quick thing. Since it is, June and everything, and thinking about his memory, unfortunately, he left us way too soon. But Shane Helms shared a screenshot of a conversation. I guess it wasn't a screenshot. He kind of transcribed the conversation between him and Canyon. And Canyon texted him and said, "Hey, I got to tell you something." He said, "Yeah, sure. What is it?" And he said, "I'm gay. Does that bother you?" And Shane replied, "I'm not. Does that bother you?"
Wow.
And Canyon replied, "Pop, that's the greatest response I've gotten so far. Thanks, buddy." A couple more news and notes here, just heading to the WWE side, or WWF rather. WWF's Raw at Madison Square Garden was sold out with nearly 20,000 people and a gate of nearly $400,000, which is the largest gate WWF has ever had in the U.S. for a non-pay-per-view show. Not shocked. It's at the GAD. And here you go. Dan Severn is no longer wearing the NWA belt. Championship, pal.
Championship, pal.
He's no longer wearing it on TV, and they've stopped talking about his UFC credentials and instead only mention his college wrestling days. I was a kid at the time, but did you notice that, or is this the first?
Look, I'm gonna be honest. I don't even remember him coming out with it. Maybe he did, and I just didn't realize it was a championship he was holding or something. But I don't remember it.
Yeah, he occasionally came out with the 10 pounds of gold, but as a kid, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, "What's that belt he's got?" As an adult,
I want to say I remember him carrying the UFC title.
And that was another thing. UFC in 1998 was not UFC 10 years later. It was kind of freak shows at the time, wasn't it? And I'm not saying that about the people.
I think they had already had divisions by 98. I think.
Okay.
99 for sure. But I think they had moved into divisions. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah,
But for anyone who doesn't know, the freak shows are like the matches where they had 150-pound guys like Horace Gracie against 400-pound sumo wrestlers.
Yeah.
That's why it was called a freak show.
Yeah, it's not disparaging about the people in it, so don't give me hate. Dr. Death Steve Williams worked his final show in All Japan Pro Wrestling and won the match. He, along with William Regal, or then Steven Regal, and Edge are expected to debut soon from the WWF. One of these men will go on to greatness. One of these men is still on television, and one of these men got a career-ending injury, went to WCW, went back to Japan, unfortunately got cancer, and passed away too soon. Guess who is who? And then finally, Matt and Jeff Hardy have been signed to WWF contracts. They have been working as unsigned jobbers for quite a while. So this is the beginning of the Edge and Hardy era, man.
That's freaking crazy. You're hearing a story of the Hardys, the young Hardys have been signed.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about 2 Hall of Famers now. We're and Edge too, for that matter.
Yeah, and all 3 of these guys are still wrestling, by the way. It's nuts to think about. But that does it for the news and notes. Are you ready to dive into King of the Ring itself?
I think.
Okay.
No, wait, this is a good event. I'm ready. Sorry.
Okay.
That's been my response. It's horrible.
For the most part, yes, it was a good event. I don't have...
I didn't say great. I said good. I don't just throw the word great around there like candy most of the time.
This was one of the more memorable of this time period. I will say that.
I might go you one better and say this is probably the most memorable for one reason, but we'll get to it.
Yeah. Well, I bring this event up to my wrestling friends, and obviously they go to, the cell. But there's other stuff that I was surprised. My wrestling fan friends, like one in particular, my friend Kyle, who's not... He's kind of like, he consumes it and then he kind of forgets it and then he moves on to the next week. But this one, he specifically remembered the main event. And I did too, for a reason I'll get into as we go on. But King of the Ring 1998 took place June 28th, 1998, from the Pittsburgh Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Igloo, where it's going to sound weird with me saying it because I'm a Cleveland fan, but my Pittsburgh Penguins play there. I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan because for all
you like Ohio State, but you don't like the professional hockey team that plays in the same city as Ohio State.
Oh no, I do, but I support. I am a fan of the Blue Jackets. However, growing up in northeastern Ohio, there were 2 teams that you could root for: the Detroit Red Wings and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I went to the Penguins. My dad went to the Red Wings. So.
At the time, I was like, okay, for that time period, I'm okay with that. Because, the Red Wings, screw them. But now the Red Wings suck and the Pittsburgh Penguins are like dominant, so screw you. Anyways.
Well, yeah. So I picked well, I think.
Well, it just shows that you didn't jump on the bandwagon at the time, too, so I can kind of respect that. Because the Red Wings were like the team. So.
Yeah. Well, that was always when we played NHL games. He picked the Red Wings. Usually I would pick the Colorado Avalanche because they were like the second best team on most NHL games. So, I wanted to be able to compete. So, but I still liked the Penguins. But the attendance was 17,087. Not quite a sellout, but close. The paper.
I don't think anyone's complaining about 17,000 tickets sold, though.
Oh, hell no. Well, and the pay-per-view buy rate was a 1.1. That means that 310,000 people ordered this pay-per-view. Not bad. 310,000, that's not bad. King of the Ring was one of the big 5 at the time. But I don't know. I think that was a pretty respectable buy rate at that time. I don't know.
Well, it would be a lot better now because of like the age of people streaming stuff. But back then, it was probably amazing. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know, but just looking at numbers now, like real quick, AEW recently did 100,000, which they called like amazing. And it was like, back then that'd be crap. So I just, that
was like 2,000 WCW numbers. Well, like Eric Bischoff had brought up the difference. He said the numbers we were pulling in 2000. We were like, my gosh, we're dying. Today, people would kill for those numbers.
Yeah,
he's not
crazy.
Wrong. Yep. Yeah, it's so weird with all the streaming services. Personally, I haven't watched Raw or SmackDown on television in years. I'm not even joking. Years. The last time I tuned into anything.
That's my point, though, too. It's like right there. It's like people are consuming it. It's just not being shown. Yeah. Like, AEW's pulling in like 975,000 on average. Guarantee you at least 2 or 3 million people are seeing it. It's just not being reflected, I mean, and I know advertisers aren't going to look at it like that, but that's what it is.
Right. The stipulation of the main event, let's get into that, because it's going to start an ongoing joke that you and I like to bring up, or a callback, whatever, that you and I use in our real life sometimes. The stipulation of the main event is that if Kane does not win the WWF title against Stone Cold Steve Austin in a first blood match, he will set himself on fire.
Because that makes sense.
And Bruce, this is the ongoing joke, because Bruce Pritchard said that when talking to Vince Russo about the idea, he's like, well, what is he going to do? He's like, bro, he's going to set himself on fire, then he's gone forever, bro. Then he said, well, he's covered from head to toe. How is he going to make him bleed? Bro, he could slit his throat, bro. These are real statements.
Real statements.
A grown man, not a child or a prepubescent teen or something like that. No, this is a grown man saying this stuff.
Man.
There's a lot of Russo bashing on the show, so send all your hate to us at @mainevent_marks on Twitter and Instagram. But anyway,
I also need to point out, I don't really hate Russo. I hate his writing. I don't judge him as a person. I'm talking specifically about Vince Russo in wrestling.
Look, as a person, I think he's a complete idiot. I've heard he's charming, which is, fine. But, a lot of people can be charming. Doesn't mean they're great people. I don't know. I've heard things he has said in and out of wrestling. To me, he strikes me as a complete blithering moron. But full disclosure, I've never met the man, so whatever. Well, because of this stipulation, there are gas cans all around ringside.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a thing that'll come into play later. Not to jump ahead. The first match on the card, because if you want to start off hot, man. It's the Headbangers of Mosh and Thrasher with Taka Michinoku taking on Kaientai, which is Funaki, Men's Teao, and I almost called him Dick Togo. Dick
Freudian
Togo.
slip. The first Freudian slip of our new podcast.
Oh, man. Funaki, Men's Teao, and Dick Togo with Yamaguchi-san in their corner. This match only lasted for 6 minutes 44 seconds. Thank God.
6 minutes too long.
Okay, I don't know if you remember at the time. Maybe you can explain to me. First of all, Taka comes out dressed as one of the Headbangers, and then he takes it off, and he's got his regular outfit on. But Kaientai is dressed like rejected 90s rap, like a rejected 90s rap group. Do you know
That's just how they looked. I don't know why.
I remember Yamaguchi-san always wearing a suit though, because I remember.
Oh no, I mean, like they were feuding with the Headbangers, and that was the anti-punk rock thrash stuff they were doing.
So Kaientai,
I guess the oddities weren't ready yet. I don't know.
Well, Greg, I fondly remember that beloved '90s rap group consisting of only Japanese men.
That was the introduction to K-pop, which is huge now.
Oh my gosh. No, it's J-pop, Greg, because they're from Japan.
I stand corrected. My apologies.
You apologize to all those weirdos on Twitter. But yeah, this just... And what happened with Taka? Because I know he was part of Kaientai, wasn't he?
Yeah, he is. So, he turned on Val Venus... When Val Venus slept with that girl, it was Yamaguchi-san's wife, and he said it was his sister.
Yeah. Well,
even looking back, I'm like, I don't even know why that was a heel turn. I didn't see Taka getting less popular. I don't understand it, but.
Well, did Taka? So at this point, Taka had never been a part of Kaientai.
I think he joined him maybe a month before. Because I know he was like a face at WrestleMania 14, so
yeah,
I don't remember the month, but
so he's against them here. I know that. Yeah, I don't know.
Against them here. That's right.
Kaientai was freaking weird.
He's about
That's
to.
All I can say.
Sorry.
Men. I think it was Men's Teao, by the way, had another name in ECW because these guys were in ECW. Men's Te'o and Dick Togo were there. But Men's Te'o, I think, was called Terry Boy in ECW. So if anybody remembers that. I
think this was part of like a trade agreement with ECW.
Yeah. Why these guys?
I don't know, but my thinking, looking back at it, would be to bolster the light heavyweight division, but I don't.
Do you have a Taka figure, by the way? Because I don't.
I do not. Mattel's never made one, to my knowledge.
No.
I only do Mattel, by the way, but.
No. Well, because Jax had a Taka figure, and I wish, looking back, I wish I would have got one. I know it's a random, like, why, but.
No. When people see your collection, that's not random at all. It's in keeping. So.
When I finally get my stuff out of a storage unit and I get my stuff back to, where it should be, then I will, I'll take some pictures and some videos, kind of pull out some obscure ones and show people what I got. But anyway, in the end of this match, Taka pinned Funaki after hitting a Michinoku driver. Now, Uncle Davey Meltzer rated this 2 1/4 stars. I'm using Meltzer's ratings only because his are the only ones publicly available. If you don't, you can find
also, I think to be fair, back then he was the only one that, and I use this term loosely, like very, very loosely, the only one that mattered. So.
Yeah, I mean, there was Bruce Mitchell and Wade Keller. Keller, you can find him, I think, if you dig hard enough, but I didn't feel like digging that deep. But Dave's ratings are everywhere. He is obviously the top dog in the dirt sheet world. But he rated it 2 1/4 star. I rated it just 2 stars. What did you think of this thing?
I'm going to say 1. I hated it. Sorry. I
didn't think it was horrible.
I watched all the pay-per-views, by the way, for this podcast. I will watch them all the way through. Mm-hmm. Even if I'm like, I want to fast forward this.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
This match I felt was, what can you really do in under 7 minutes? Give me a break.
It was a comedy match, and look who's in it, but.
Yeah, I know.
Not much comedy, but that's what it was intended to be.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to pump the crowd up next because Sable comes out to the ring for a promo, and the crowd just blows for her in more ways than one.
I'll leave that alone.
But before she can speak, however, by the way, Sable in 1998, her cups runneth over. That's all I can say. Got to make the first.
How roll tide was she looking, huh?
Oh, good Lord. She was pouring her heart out for all of us to see. But before she can speak, Vince McMahon's theme hits, and Vince comes out with the Stooges, Pat Patterson, Gerald Briscoe. They tell her to get lost, and then when she goes to get out of the ring, Pat touches her butt. She turns around and smacks the crap out of him.
Something tells me she was okay with that, but anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just But then Vince goes on to tell the fans.
They had to have Pat do it, right?
Yeah, I guess so. So it was less threatening. I don't know. But Vince goes on to tell the fans what they already know, that they are big disappointments to their parents. And he's probably right. They're in Pittsburgh. Should I not say? But
he's a Browns fan, folks. He does not like Pittsburgh. Let's just get that out there. Not that I do, but I probably just dislike it like less than he does.
Right. But then he pumps up the main event between Kane and Austin, saying that Kane will definitely beat Stone Cold. This was, right smack dab in the middle of the McMahon-Austin feud.
Okay,
but this
real
next
quick,
match,
not to be that fan, but this pay-per-view, if you're watching it, if you're at this part, you've already bought the pay-per-view. What's the point of hyping up the match on the card you've already spent your money on? It seems like something that could have happened on Sunday Night Heats. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, this segment was just a way to... Because Sable, and I hate WWE. I haven't really paid attention to other, promotional posters for other companies too much. But I think WWE is the biggest violator of this. Pisses me off. They'll put somebody on the pay-per-view poster who maybe has a cameo on the show.
Yeah, right.
Like Sable is front and center on the pay-per-view poster next to a guillotine. Why? She came out. She didn't even speak. She walked to the ring, grabbed the mic, turned around, smacked Pat Patterson, and left.
I'll tell you why. To sell the tape to adolescent teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. Can't get a hold of your dad's Playboys, so there you go.
Wow.
This next match, though, was even worse than that segment. It was Ken Shamrock taking on Double J, Jeff Jarrett, and he had Tennessee Lee in his corner. This was a King of the Ring semifinals match and only got 5.5 minutes. In the end, Shamrock hit Jarrett with a Frankensteiner and then forced him to submit with an ankle lock. It was kind of a cool transition. But then he does this to advance to the finals of the tournament. Tennessee Lee then runs in, gets a belly-to-belly suplex for his, for good measure after the match. Uncle Dave gave it 1 star. I gave it 1.5 because, 5.5 minutes, they gave it a good effort, but it was a 5.5 minute match. What the hell can you do, right?
Oh, I'll give it 2 stars only because it was meant to be fast.
Yeah, giggity. I don't know. I wasn't a big Jeff Jarrett fan. Still am not. Tennessee Lee, he tried, but yeah, I don't know.
What do you mean you tried? That was the world's greatest promoter. You shut your mouth.
What the hell? I was, however, a big Ken Shamrock fan. I have a Jack's figure of him. So,
hey, I chatted with him in New Orleans. Remember at WrestleCon?
Yeah, you got a picture. You chatted with him for a
We had a long chat. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Hold on.
Most down there to do, by the way. You ever go to a convention or something and get a chance to meet him? I know he's like an MMA guy, but man, he is just like the coolest dude to talk to.
Yeah, he seemed pretty cool. He chatted with you about Tito Ortiz and whatever else. So
I told him I thought he was screwed in that Hoist Gracie fight, the one in Bellator. That honestly probably shouldn't have happened, but I think he got screwed because he got hit in the nuts. But
wow,
referee didn't see it. But yeah.
Oh dang. Yeah, I didn't see it either. So because I didn't watch. But anyway, the next fight or match, not fight, but I guess I can call it that. It's got another UFC guy in it. The Rock took on Dan the Beast Severn in a King of the Ring semifinals match. This one only got 4 minutes, 25 seconds. Again, what the hell can you accomplish in that amount of time? They were teasing.
Well, I'm looking at it. I think they're saving all the time for the big matches. These are literally the matches that don't matter. We're going to the finals. That's what matters. So
yeah, but it's
not to make an excuse for it, but that's all I can imagine. But
this is just an Attitude Era trope, though. Like short, who gives a crap matches? Let's get to the story. And it's like, the matches set up the story and the story sets up the matches. Like, come on. But they were teasing a potential Shamrock Severn finals here. That didn't happen only because neither one of them wanted to voluntarily job to the other one. That was the explanation given by like Bruce Pritchard and others. Said neither one of them wanted to lose a fake fight to the other one when there was still potential money in a real fight. So, I don't know. There was that. But there's kayfabe heat between The Rock and Dan Severn only because on the way to this match, Severn kayfabe injured D'Lo Brown in a tournament match. So he kind of... The storyline was he like tore D'Lo's pec muscles like off the bone.
Yeah, which wouldn't heal for like 2 years, by the way.
Yeah, they made a Mattel figure of D'Lo and his chest protector. So
he would not ever heal. But
yeah, he had to wear a chest protector, which was like his gimmick because he hit the low down frog splash, and it was like, oh well, he's got that chest protector. It makes it worse. Now we got Roman Reigns who walks around in Kevlar all the time. But
he doesn't do a frog splash though, so
no. But in the end, Mark Henry distracted the referee and allowed D'Lo, with his chest protector on, to hit the lowdown on Severn, allowing The Rock to pin him and advance to the King of the Ring finals to meet Ken Shamrock. Uncle Dave gave this a negative half star. I gave it 1 star just because they crammed a lot of story into 4.5 minutes.
I said 1, 2.
Yeah, nothing to write home about, that's for sure.
Also, I don't do half stars, by the way. Just so you know.
I'll do half stars. I'm not going to get.
It's weird, but
I'm not going to get as granular as Meltzer with 4th stars or whatever. It's like, nah, it's either going to be 1, 1.5, or 2. Like that's it.
Well, for me, real quick, going off of that, I'm like at 4.5. What stops from being a total 5? That's what I'm like. No, okay.
Yeah, I get that. But speaking of nothing to write home about, up next we've got the team of Too Much, who was Too Sexy Brian Christopher and Too Hot Scott Taylor. They would eventually go on to be Too Cool and actually be very charismatic as them. This was not this time. They took on the team of Al Snow and Head. Yes, Al Snow's tag team partner was a mannequin head. And the special guest referee was Jerry the King Lawler. So JR called this match by himself. Yay. This match went on for 8.5 minutes. The story of the match is that Jerry Lawler's he had a hatred for ECW, and Al Snow was just coming back after main eventing an ECW pay-per-view. So this is what
I think. Now I think about it real quick. I think Al Snow was the trade for Too Cool Scorpio to go back. I think.
Yeah.
You're wrong on that.
I mean, Al, I'm sure got. Well, not even. I'm sure. I can guarantee Al got the better payday. But as far as he had to work with,
well, at least the check cleared.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, he just comes off main eventing a pay-per-view for the world title. He comes back. He's teaming with a mannequin head to take on Too Much. Woohoo.
We can say that, but that mannequin head was freaking over, so.
It was, but dang. I have a Jax figure of him, by the way, with a mannequin head. That figure was pulled off shelves because mothers complained that it looked like a severed head. It was freaking stupid. This was Mick Foley pointed out. He was like, this toy is right next to the other toys from the movie Sleepy Hollow with literal severed heads in the package.
Yeah, but Sleepy Hollow wasn't popular on TV.
Yeah.
That's the argument, I guess. But
this was freaking stupid. But I do have a figure. I also have a Jax figure of Brian Christopher.
I don't have Too Cool. Wish I did.
I don't have a Scott Taylor or a Scotty Too Hottie, whatever you want to call him. But I do have Brian Christopher. I do have Jerry Lawler. I have 2 Jax figures of him. But yeah, so like I said, Jim Ross is alone on commentary for this. The 2 stories here was Lawler's hatred for ECW and the ongoing story about them bringing up that Brian Christopher was actually Jerry Lawler's son, and Lawler continuously denying it. So, yeah. And then they were trying to figure out, well, then why do you have favoritism towards him? Oh, because he's a great wrestler, blah, blah, blah.
My favorite line ever was Jim Ross, just like so casually. Oh, this kid, Brian Christopher, some people say he got a bad break at birth, but I don't know. Like, holy crap.
That's fantastic. Obviously, Brian Christopher left us way too soon. Died in jail. That was unfortunate. I was hoping that he would, pull the nose up on that before he died, but his demons, as they say, got the better of him, and yeah. And Scott Taylor's still out there doing stuff. Al Snow, Jerry Lawler's still out there wrestling, which is just mind-blowing.
With a stent in his heart, by the way.
Yeah.
I would think that'd just be like, no, I'm done with anything. But
Oh, yeah. I'd be sitting my butt down, but, good for him, I guess. The crowd is deader than Kelsey's nuts for this match, by the way. In the end, let's get to the end. We have to. In the end, Lawler handed Brian Christopher a bottle of Head and Shoulders shampoo. They put the head on the bottle, laid it down. Christopher pinned the head for a 3 count. This was embarrassing. Uncle Dave.
I'm gonna give it 1. I'm gonna give it 1 star only because I thought it was funny as hell with Lawler reprimanding the head.
Yeah, I gave it 1 star. Uncle Dave gave it -2 stars. My thing is, I only gave it 1 star because the wrestling in the match was good. Lawler's comedy was okay. It wasn't stupendous, but I mean, some of it made me giggle. But the ending was just embarrassing. Jim Ross said he was embarrassed to have to commentate this mess. And you can always tell when he really hates something, as he says, well, that's the first time we've seen anything like that, and most likely the last time.
You think at that time he'd have a say in something, but...
Jim Ross? Or Jerry Lawler?
Ross.
Jim didn't have a say in crap, as you can tell by when he talked, his podcast. But up next, we got X-Pac with China. We see a lot of China on this show, by the way. X-Pac with China.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Hart. Yeah. But he's taking on Owen Hart, and this match gets 8 minutes, 30 seconds. Decent amount of time. This is part of the DX versus Nation of Domination feud. Was Owen a part of the Nation at this point?
Yes.
Okay. I have a Jax figure of him, by the way, in this danger sign outfit. And I have a Jax figure of X-Pac. Yeah. And I have a Jax figure of X-Pac in this outfit too, the red one. Mark Henry runs out at one point and he splashes X-Pac outside the ring when the ref is distracted. China then gets in Henry's face before Vader rushes out and he nails Mark Henry and hilariously falls backward right onto his ass.
Seems to be a thing with Vader in the WWE anyways.
Yeah, I know. Like, what happened to him? But
it's funny though.
Distracts.
Looking at these two, like you think this would be a far better match.
I thought it was really good, but yeah, they had to.
It's definitely the best match so far, but
yeah, they had to have a ton of shenanigans, overbooked the crap out of it, and it ruined it, in my opinion. But anyway, this all distracts the referee while Owen has a sharpshooter locked in on X-Pac. China runs in, hits Owen with a DDT. X-Pac covers him and gets the win. And it seems like Owen always had to do the JOB for DX. That's the only thing. I really hated that.
Well, he was the heart that stayed.
Yeah. Well, Uncle Dave gave it 2 1/4 star. I gave it 2.5 stars.
Solid 2. Best match so far.
Yeah. It's not saying much, but you are correct. Then Paul Bearer comes out next to cut a promo showing a replay of The Undertaker busting into his house and beating his ass. I had forgotten about that. He says that Kane grew up alone, idolizing The Undertaker, watching him on Superstars, wanting to be him. And Paul finishes by saying that tonight will be the happiest night of his life when his son Kane becomes the WWF Champion. So, yeah, there's another hyping of the main event as if we really need it. Again, to your point, this promo could have been done on Heat.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, this
also,
next match,
why do they make him call himself the Fat Man?
Yeah. He said you won't be laughing at the Fat Man anymore, or something like that. I'm like, okay. According to Bruce Pritchard, they weighed him I think he was one of the ones they weighed every week. And they'd bring in, and he said, well, it wasn't to shame them, but it was the only thing that could accurately get their weight. They brought in like those scales that they use for cattle. And they made him and Vader. Yeah. And he said they made Vader stand on it, and they made Paul Bearer stand on it. And Paul thought it was a joke, to rib him. And Bruce said, no, we were concerned about his weight. And we were like, dude, we have to weigh you on this thing. Quit eating. So, I don't know. But that was according to Bruce Pritchard. This next match, in my opinion, was the best match of the night up until this point. It's the New Age Outlaws, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, again with China, defending the WWF Tag Team Championships against the New Midnight Express, Bombastic Bob, and Bodacious Bart. They had Jim Cornette in their corner. They get a decent amount of time, 9.5 minutes. This, oddly enough, was the first time the WWF Tag Team Champions and the NWA Tag Team Champions had ever faced off in history. Which, nice little footnote, but it's really a shame that nobody gave a damn.
Well, I think people would have gave a damn if it was the real Midnight Express, but...
Yeah, of course.
That's a dream match right there, them and the Outlaws. But
yeah, I'll say this. I thought this was a great team. They should not have saddled them with calling themselves the New Midnight Express and calling them bodacious and bombastic. Stupid.
Yeah. Also, watching this back, I realized this is I could be wrong, but this is like the first time the Smoking Guns were ever on opposite ends, right?
I think so. Yeah, because there was a cool moment, and it didn't get a whole lot of mention, but I thought it was a really cool moment where Billy and Bart came like face to face, kind of like forehead to forehead, like jaw jacking, and then they start beating on each other. It didn't last for very long, unfortunately, but it was there. In the end, Billy goes for a pile driver, but Cornette comes in and smacks him in the back with the title, I believe. Billy still manages to kick out of a pin after that. Then Cornette threatens Gunn again with the title, and Chyna comes in and low blows Corny. I could make a few jokes, but I'm not going to. Both of the Outlaws drop Holly with a double stun gun, and then Gunn pinned Bombastic Bob, and the Outlaws retain the titles.
Real name, by the way.
Yeah. Uncle Dave gave this 1.5 stars. I gave it 2.5 stars. I really liked it. Again, we had to have, I thought it was a ton of interference. Yeah. My thing is, like, every single match, somebody's interfering. It's overbooked. Every match. So it's meaningless. But,
there's a match coming up where no one gets involved, and,
Oh, gosh, yeah. Well, this next match, it's the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. It's Ken Shamrock versus The Rock. It gets plenty of time, 14 minutes, 9 seconds. Chyna comes out for the third time in a row that night. But this time, she comes out to do commentary with Triple H. On commentary, Triple H makes a bunch of masturbation jokes, and Chyna was on Spanish commentary, and they asked what she was saying, and he made a kind of a racist Taco Bell crack. It's like, they're like, what's she talking about? He's like, I don't know, saying something about I want Taco Bell. I'm like, oh my, this is really bad. But yeah, Triple H's commentary.
Can't blame Russo for that one either. I'm almost certain.
No. But yeah, Triple H's commentary consisted of a bunch of masturbation jokes. That's all it was. And then, like, at one point, he gets off commentary, and when he comes back, he says, testes, 1, 2, 3? That one made me laugh. I'll say that. But, dang, there's a ton of dick jokes. But getting into the actual match, The Rock gets out of the ring, walks over to Triple H, and Triple H takes a swig of water and spits it in his face. In the end, Ken Shamrock forced The Rock to submit to an ankle lock. So he becomes the 1998 King of the Ring, no crown, no sash or cloak or whatever the hell. I'm sure he wasn't, upset about that one.
I think him and Billy Gunn are both in the running for the most forgettable King of the Ring ever, by the way.
The only reason I remember him being King of the Ring is because of this event as a whole. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Uncle Dave gave this 3 1/4 stars. I just rounded up and gave it 3 stars.
Same, yeah. I thought this was actually the best match tonight now.
Yes, this was really, really damn good. We finally...
Ken Shamrock, by the way, very underrated as a wrestler, I think.
Oh, yeah, he was fantastic. I thought he was great. Jim Ross said the only reason they didn't push him more was because he wasn't dedicated to wrestling. He still had aspirations of going back to the UFC. And
never won another fight again, so it makes you wonder why.
Yeah. Well, and then he said Shamrock wasn't reliable. Like, he no-showed a bunch of house shows. He would show up late to TV tapings, stuff like that. So he was like, well, we're not going to invest our time into a guy that we can't rely on, which makes a lot more sense now as to why they didn't push him. Because I think he could have been, a top, like, maybe not the top guy, but I think he could have been, a main event top guy. But, yeah, now's the match everybody wants to hear about, Greg. It's The Undertaker versus Mankind, Hell in a Cell. tons and tons of time, 17 minutes and 38 seconds.
And we know this has been done to death, by the way.
Yeah. So we'll just kind of hit the highlights here. Undertaker was wrestling this match with a broken ankle, I believe. And I think he had hurt ribs that he was like putting a Kevlar vest over. I believe this was the time.
Even more crazy, the fact that he had a broken ankle and climbed a damn cage twice.
Yep. And this was before they put the footholds in it.
Yeah.
So they were literally climbing a cage. Foley said it was so difficult to get up there, especially with as heavy as he was climbing that thing. He said he couldn't feel his fingers by the time he got up there. So there's that.
Well, how little do we know? That'd be the least of his problems.
All right. It all started on top of the cell with Foley in a chair. Foley threw the chair up there, or excuse me, Mankind, whatever, threw the chair up there, and he climbed up. Mankind got chucked off through an announce table, as we all know. This elicits one of the most famous calls in wrestling history from Jim Ross, where he said, "Good God Almighty, they killed him. As God is my witness, he's broken in half." I think he has a T-shirt that says that, by the way.
I would not doubt it.
He's taken away on a stretcher. Mankind, that is. Pronouns, pal. Mankind's taken away on a stretcher, gets off the stretcher, runs back, and climbs back on top of the cell, and then he gets chokeslammed through it. That chair that he threw up there earlier came down, smacked him in the face, and knocked a tooth or two out. This elicits another famous call from Jerry Lawler where he says, "That's it, he's dead."
What's scary about that is Lawler's kind of calm about it. But looking back,
yeah.
I don't think he was calm. I think he was like genuinely worried and he just didn't want to yell.
Yeah. Well, Mankind said Mick Foley, whatever, said he asked The Undertaker later, he's like, "So what did you think looking down at me?" He's like, "I thought you were dead." I'm like, damn. Yeah.
Oh, no big deal. I thought you died, whatever.
Yeah. Well, we
all die, right?
If you can't mourn forever, because Terry Funk comes in. Right. Terry Funk comes in to kind of buy some time while, Mankind is trying to get his wits about him, which he never fully does. He does enough to finish the match. But this was not, part of the plan, by the way. Terry Funk just improvises. He comes in, and he takes a choke slam from The Undertaker. Undertaker literally choke slams him out of his sneakers. His old man sneakers, by the way. And you're not lying when you say literally. Yeah, his old man sneakers went flying. But yeah, if you want to know what I mean by old man sneakers, go back and look at just he was dressed like he was getting ready to grill up a mean burger for the family. Oh, he might have been. Mankind pours thumbtacks all over the mat. Undertaker chokeslams him onto them. And then the Undertaker finally pins Mankind in the end after a tombstone pile driver. Uncle Dave gave this 4 1/4 stars. I did not think so highly of the match because it was just a car crash. I gave it 2.5 stars. I gave it 3 for entertainment purposes. Yeah, it was definitely entertaining. I'll say that. But as a match, meh. Later, I guess, Mick Foley was obviously pretty messed up after this, and he kept asking Undertaker and others. He was like, "Hey, he's like, I forgot to use the thumbtacks." Meanwhile, they're pulling thumbtacks out of his back as he's speaking, and they're like, "Man, no, Jack, you used them." He's like, "Oh, did I? Good." Good? Yeah. This was guy's life's on the line, and he's like worried about using thumbtacks. Wow. I know. This was not the last of Mick Foley we'd see this, by the way. So buckle up, Buckaroo. It's even more crazy when you say that, though. How is this not the last we didn't see of him? I know. The main event: Stone Cold Steve Austin defends the WWF Championship against Kane with Paul Bearer. It's a first blood match. This one also gets plenty of time, just shy of 15 minutes. Austin had been hospitalized with a staph infection and spent a good portion of the week in the hospital medical facility, pal. before this match. So that explains why Austin comes out to the ring with his elbow heavily taped up, and he's got a huge elbow pad on. That's some dedication, man. You know, pull your ass out of a hospital bed to go defend the world title in a first blood match. Ugh.
Well, you know, not to downplay it, but it wasn't going to really be a match, right? It was more like a fight. So,
yeah,
I think it had been a match, you might have been more of a problem. To be fair.
Yeah, still, it's just like that's dedication. Which
I don't think I could have done it. I'll be honest, but
yeah, well, the last two matches have involved somebody who's been gimped. Think about that.
Not only been gimped, but like damn near more killed.
Right, yeah. That's nuts. But Kane debuted his full body, like double arm suit in this match. And here's how I remember this. Because as a kid, do you remember the days of pay-per-view where you could like tune into the pay-per-view channel, and if you tune it just right, you got somewhat of a visible picture?
I do, yeah.
Okay, well, I did that as a kid, and I could see just enough where I'm like, what the hell? I keep in mind I'm 7. And I'm like, how's he going to make Kane bleed? His entire body, head to toe, is covered, except for his hand. Literally, his left hand was the only thing showing. By the way, I have a Jax figure of this Kane. So,
oh, he had a neck.
Yeah, he slit his throat, bro. Going forever. But, so Kane actually had the Hell in a Cell lowered at one point, and he tried to basically kill Stone Cold by holding him under where the cell was going to lower, and he was going to choke him to death. A lot of attempted murder in this match. Mankind.
I don't think I'd want to do that, man, because, like, what if that thing, like, accidentally falls or something, man?
Yeah, or if, you know, the thing malfunctions and it really comes down on top of him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, too risky for me. But Mankind actually did a run-in with a chair, and he got a Stone Cold Stunner for his troubles. The Undertaker then comes out, swings a chair at Mankind, misses, and cracks Austin in the skull. This busts him wide open. Taker then fought with Kane and Mankind before... The referee was out, by the way. I forget what part of the match the ref got bumped, but he's out. So to revive him, the Undertaker grabs one of those gas cans at ringside and pours, allegedly, gasoline all over the referee to wake his ass up.
That's how you wake someone up, though, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right up there with smelling salts. But then Austin picked up that chair from earlier, cracks Kane in the head, knocks him out. Earl Hebner sees the blood pouring down Austin's face, and he calls for the bell, awarding Kane the match and the title. This match, Uncle Dave gave it 3 1/4 star. I gave it 3 stars even. What about you?
I'm on the fence between 2 and 3. I don't think it was a good match, but I think it accomplished a lot, so I might say 3 for that reason. To be fair, it was never going to be a match. So, I mean, you have to take that into account, too.
Yeah, I think this is a great brawl. I'll say that. The next night on Raw, just to wrap it up, Kane puts the world title on the line against Austin, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He loses it. And then I believe the same exact thing happened to the Undertaker. Well, not exact, but close enough. The same thing happened to the Undertaker 1 year later, right?
Yep. Again, the night after King of the Ring, I believe.
Yeah. So he wins it, puts it on the line, loses it. So he gets a 24-hour reign. It's just the constant title switches like that was stupid, in my opinion.
Well, what's the common denominator, though?
Austin or Russo. Well, Russo wasn't around the next year, was he? Oh, no,
yeah,
before he left.
He left in October next year, yeah.
Yeah, so... Bro, it's just a prop, bro. Nobody cares.
Real quote.
Yeah. The final grade for the pay-per-view, Wrestling DVD Network gave it 7.5. I also gave it a 7.5 out of 10. What say you?
Yeah. I'm like at a 6.
You're going to drop it down to a 6, eh?
I thought it was a good pay-per-view, but I watch it for wrestling. I would say the high points being Shamrock and Rock and Owen Hart and X-Pac. Obviously, the sales and stuff were like the most memorable, but wrestling-wise, those two were the best.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, memorable-wise, a solid 10. You know, like, this is one that gets remembered.
Yeah, well, it definitely does. Very memorable show. We're still talking about it today and all the implications from it and whatnot. So,
Mick Foley said he can't ever go to a convention or anything without at least one question from it, so that tells you the pay-per-view's legacy alone.
Oh, yeah. It's very, very memorable. No doubt about that. But yeah, so that about does it for our show today, man. We got in a lot of news and notes, got in a lot about the show itself. All right, well, next week we are traveling a little bit further back in time. We're going to cover another great June pay-per-view that actually had more important stuff on it than I realized, because I'd never seen this show before. It was WCW Great American Bash 1996. We were just 1 month away from one of the biggest heel turns in wrestling history, if not the biggest, where Hulk Hogan turns on WCW and all the Hulkamaniacs, brother, and he forms the NWO.
You can stick it.
All you fans are just like this trash right here in the ring. And then as we travel into July, we are going to be covering some July-themed stuff, but I also wanted to cover the famous NWA, WCW, well, I guess it was just WCW, trilogy from Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat. July 1st, we're going to cover Chi-Town Rumble 89. July 8th, we're going to hop into ECW for Heatwave 1999. For July 15th, we got Clash of the Champions 6. And July 22nd, we got one of the greatest In Your House events of all time, WWF In Your House 16, Canadian Stampede from 1997. And then to wrap up July, we got Wrestle War 1989. That was the conclusion of the Flair Steamboat trilogy, where they kicked off the Flair Funk feud that will continue on through the rest of the year and I believe into the next year, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so that's all coming up here on Main Event Marks. Anything you have to say to close out here, Greg?
That's a great lineup, so it's going to be great.
Yeah.
I think coming in August, by the way, we need to do our SummerSlam that we went to, by the way.
That is, that is something we definitely need to look at because we're going to cover retro stuff, but when I say retro, that can be, anything past a year old is fair game, I believe. So you and I went to SummerSlam 2015. That was the biggest SummerSlam in history up to that point, just because of the time limit and whatever.
And so they also had the first ever NXT outside of Full Sail that night too, or that weekend.
Yes, it was a huge weekend.
It was a pretty amazing weekend.
Oh yeah, first time
I still look back on it very fondly. It's still one of my favorite memories ever.
Yep, you and I got to do a lot of cool New York stuff.
First time meeting you, in person. First NXT, my first SummerSlam in 17 years. It was New York. It was just an awesome weekend.
Yep, a lot of good stuff. We definitely have to discuss that in August. We will get to that and so much more. Any requests, let us know on social media. Again, Instagram and Twitter. You can find us at mainevent_marks. I would like to, for help with the notes, I want to give a shout out to the Wrestling Observer, or Wrestling Observer newsletter, or whatever. Wrestling DVD Network, 411 Mania, Wrestling20years.com. Those all helped me with my notes today, and in the future, I'm sure they will, along with Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is always correct, Greg.
Again, I've said this, and I say this until the day I die. It's always correct what's on the internet. Because you can't put stuff on the internet if it's not true.
Exactly. Just remember that, people. And we will see you next week. It's WCW Great American Bash 1996. Later on.
Later.